Okay, all right. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to get started here. We continuing on with the reading of the Torah. We are in Leviticus, looking at the 13th chapter of Leviticus, Vayikra. We began talking about leprosy last week, and seems like we have the remainder of the 13th chapter to go, and then also I guess 14, which is not this week but next week, is also dealing with leprosy. So we see in the scriptures that leprosy is spoken of at great length. So it seems as if there needs to be something that we gain as a result of looking over these verses and these chapters. This obviously was an important issue to be spoken of at such great length. You're talking about like 3 chapters, and that, it's a pretty extensive breakdown. Again, like everything else, we want to be able to, when we look at these things, be able to see Yeshua in the Torah. We want to be able to see the new covenant, when we look through the old covenant. So, as we look at the remainder of this chapter, we want to see what, if any, new covenant principles, or just some fundamental principles that we could find inside of these verses, and how we're able to apply, have some practical application of these commands in regards to the leprosy. Okay, so let us read the rest of, thank you very much, the rest of this chapter 13 from 29 down to 59, and then we'll get into it. Yeah, just keep nice and loud. Leviticus 13,
59,
29 through 59. You got that?
Yep.
Good.
If a man or a woman have a plague upon the head or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than the skin, and there be in it a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry skull, even a leprosy upon the head or a beard. And if the priest look on the plague of the skull, and behold, it be not in sight deeper than the skin, and that there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague of the skull 7 days. And if the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the skull spread not, and there...
Skull or scale?
Oh. Huh?
Is it skull or scale?
Oh, scale.
Some say skull,
I say skirt.
but some say scale.
I'm gonna say scale.
Skull spread not, and there be in it no yellow hair, and the skull be not in sight deeper than the skin. He shall be shaven, but the skull shall he not shave. And the priest shall shut up him that hath the skull 7 days more. And in the 7th day the priest
was scale.
wait.
Go ahead.
Scale. Okay.
Go ahead.
But if the scale spread not in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the scale be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair. He is unclean. But if the scale be in his sight at a stay, and that there is black hair grown up therein, the scale is healed. He is clean. And the priest shall pronounce him clean. If a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot that groweth in the skin, he is clean. And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean. Yet is he clean. Yeah. And he that hath his hair fallen off from the part of his head toward his face, he is forehead bald, yet he is clean. Yet is he clean. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung up in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white reddish in his bald head or in his bald forehead, as a leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man. He is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean. His plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, unclean, unclean.
Yeah.
All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He shall be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall his habitation be. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it be in the wrap or woof of linen or of woolen.
You are now muted.
And whether in a skin or in anything made of skin. And if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment or in the skin, either in the wrap.
Let's say warp on the rat.
Oh wait, warp. Or in the woof. Or in anything of skin. It is a plague of leprosy, and shall be shewed unto the priest.
Shown.
What?
It might say he's reading King James.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, 50.
Okay. I lost my place.
Traffic.
Okay. And the priest shall look upon the plague and shut up it that hath the plague 7 days. And he shall look on the plague on the 7th day. If the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in a skin, or in any work that is made of skin, the plague is a fretting leprosy. It is unclean. He shall therefore burn that garment, whether warp or woof, in woolen, or in linen, or anything of skin. Wait, where am I? Oh, wherein the plague is, for it is a fretting leprosy. It shall be burnt when in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either a warp or in the woof, or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on the plague after that is washed, and behold, if the plague have not changed his color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire.
Please press 1 to mute or unmute yourself. 2.
It is spread inward, whether it be bare within or without. And if the priest look and behold, the plague be somewhat dark after the washing of it, then he shall rend it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the wool, or out of the wool. And if it appear still in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in anything of skin, it is a spreading plague. Thou shalt burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, either warp or woof, or whatsoever thing of the skin, it be which thou shalt wash. If the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed the second time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy. And a garment or woolen, or of woolen or linen, either in the warp or woof, or anything of skins, to pronounce it clean or pronounce it.
I don't know what it is. Warp.
Yeah, that's exactly what it says.
I know.
WOOF.
Okay.
Warp as in
That's what it
weaving.
says. Wow.
Warp.
You don't know what a warp or a wolf is?
A web. Oh, wolf is Arab. It's what's a mixture. Arab. A mixture. Like Arab Shabbat is like the mixture of daylight and night.
Yeah, I don't know that.
So the wolf is the mixture. And a warp.
Day and night.
Well,
It's talking about clothing, so it would be some type of blend of material.
yeah, and then
I don't know what that means.
the warp says here a warp and weaving, a fixture.
All right, so when we go back now, looking over this, we see how again it's continuing on to talk about the
This is the end. How you feel? Okay. Not recent.
we began talking about leprosy last week and some things in terms of what went on with a person in terms of the symptoms and how the priest reacted here. I guess we've seen we have more symptoms now. It's talking about this infection, whether it be in the head or the beard. I assume that where it says it's not talking about bearded ladies. I don't think it's just. It says now if a man or a woman has an infection on the head or on the beard.
That would be the
bearded women, though.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we have same bearded women.
I guess there are, but it's probably a weird.
I mean a beard though. A full beard.
Though got real rich blood. They
I
have
can
that
see
beard.
they got this.
Whiskers now.
Yeah, because I mean I work in a facility, so we see
Right.
but a full beard.
But I never seen them with a full beard. I seen them with the 5
I've
o'clock
never seen
shadow.
them dealing with a full beard. What you say? What you say?
With the 5 o'clock shadow.
But either way, here they're dealing with now again. So we talked about the word sarah, which is translated as leprosy, sara'at, and how the word means a seed sown or thrown or cast out. So when we talk about the sara'at, the leprosy, you're dealing with a seed that has been planted and that is manifest. We started.
Could you please spell that word?
We're talking about leprosy.
Yes, hara.
Sara'at. It's translated as leprosy. The word sara'at.
I'm saying the right words backwards like that.
Sara'at.
You didn't write this.
I guess how you would.
Zara at TS.
I guess how you would look at it would be kind of like sara'at, something like that. Sara'at, sara'at.
So that means leprosy.
Yeah. So the word when you see leprosy, it's going to be that word sara'at in the Hebrew.
Which isn't like the leprosy we had today.
Yeah, where you think about leprosy now, we talked about this, and people,
falling off.
it's really disfiguring and things. You go to these other foreign countries, and people's limbs and stuff shrivel up and disappear, and that's not what this is. We see what the symptoms are in the scriptures, and it's some kind of skin thing, but it's not like body parts falling off.
It's a condition, skin condition.
Yeah. But when you look at the root, well, the root will be here. But again, it's dealing with the seed that is sown, that's cast out, the seed that's planted and manifests. So when we look at the scriptures, it's always looking for action. If the thing that's going on with the skin is active, if it's you have active symptoms, when the priest looks at it, he's going to say that you're unclean.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have like the remnants of the condition, like you had this skin condition and maybe scars are left behind, then you're labeled clean. So here now it's talking about like when you look down in 31, but if the priest looks at the infection of the scale, and indeed it appears to be no deeper than the skin, and there's no black hair in it, then the priest shall isolate the person with the scaly infection for 7 days. So he's looking at the thing, and so he wants to see now, is it going to get worse?
Yeah.
Is it going to get worse? He's seen that there is a condition. He's going to put you away for 7 days and see, is it going to get worse? Or is it going to stay the same? If it stays the same, then it's not something that's growing, it's not something that's spreading, then everything's good. But if it gets worse, right, then now you have a problem, right? So 32, on the 7th day, the priest shall look at the infection. If the scale has not spread, with no yellowish hair has grown in it, and the appearance of the scale is no deeper than the skin, then he shall shave himself, but he shall not shave the scale, and the priest shall isolate the priest with the scale 7 more days. Then on the 7th day, the priest shall look at the scale, and if the scale has not spread on the skin and appears to be no deeper than the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. Right? So the thing that we seeing is kind of like a growth of the seed. When we think about the word, again, sara'at, is dealing with the sowing of the seed. Now, when we think about what leprosy is, we talked about this last week in terms of, we looked at Miriam and how she was somebody who leprosy was put on as a result of her kind of talking against Moses. We see that, we also saw that part of the healing process, so to speak, of leprosy. One of the things that was the only thing that we see that's involved in it is isolation. The person is sent away. You could think about the fact, well, maybe he's this person who is contagious, so you don't want him to contaminate anybody else. But at the same time, it causes you to think about, what is, because again, leprosy it's called the plague of leprosy. So you did something in order to cause the leprosy to be put on you, as if leprosy is a judgment against, right? And we
is
see
that the manifestation of your, like, some sin that was in you?
it seems as if when we look at leprosy as being the plague of leprosy, leprosy is a manifestation of a negative seed that has been planted. It's called the plague of leprosy. It's something that's coming against you as a result of something. Then we looked at Miriam. When she became leprous, it was because she was sowing these negative seeds about her brother, right? As if to say that, the evil speech, lashon hara, evil tongue, can be a thing that causes leprosy to come on someone. Or at least, at this time we look at Israel in the wilderness. That evil speech was something that infectious use of words in the tongue against other people could be something that would be a cause of this. And then again, now you look at what the priest did. All he's doing is looking at you and sending you off away, and to see if this thing grows or if it stays the same or if it goes away.
But it seems like even if it does grow, if it covers your whole body, then you get to pronounce clean.
Right, but the word that we saw was kind of would be like a scar. So it did cover it. You had been covered, but it's not. It wasn't like it was active. So you kind of were overtaken by the thing, but then you just was left with scars, where it's not open. Sores necessarily.
Not contagious. No way.
I just think about like negativity, and like when somebody has negative energy, and they're being negative, how that could like kind of spread onto you.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Because it does. I mean, when you have negative energy, even when somebody try to start a riot.
That's
it
true.
can start with one person,
Yeah.
and the next thing you know, they don't even care what the other.
They have a group mentality.
Right,
Yeah.
then the whole group starts
Gang
fighting coming in,
mentality, yeah.
right,
Yep.
without even knowing what the circumstances is.
Right. Yeah. So especially, it's funny whenever you see sometimes, like if somebody, and I've seen people do this online. If you're a bunch of people standing around, and one person start running.
Oh yeah,
There's
yeah.
gonna be a couple more people that are going
Right.
without even knowing what's
Right.
going on.
Right.
But you're gonna start running just because these other people.
Right.
Because it might be running because somebody has, you know, a gun or something.
Right.
Like, you gonna go. It don't matter.
But it's the
I
same.
think I'd be like, why is everybody running?
Yeah, you be that one, right? But the thing is that when we had this when we think about leprosy as the plague, we have to think about the fact that there's something that the person has done, some seed that was sown.
That represents sin.
Yeah, exactly. Some seed that was sown that causes this thing to come on the person in the first place. Again, because it's called the plague of leprosy. Plagues, we see a plague is given by Yahweh. Plagues are judgment against sin. So, it causes us to think about, the why. Why? What is it that caused this thing to come against the person in the first place? Right. So again, we looked towards Miriam last week, but when we look here down in verse 45, where it says, and for the Metzora, or the person who has been declared leprous, right? This person here who has been declared leprous, where it says in 45, as for the Metzora, how's that reading in the King James?
And the leper in whom the plague is.
Oh, it's just calling him the leper, right? Okay, so Metzora is just a person with leprosy. So there's Sara'at, which is the leprosy, and then when they're just calling you a leper, somebody with leprosy, that word is Metzora, which is the same root, but it's just dealing with, like, it's calling you that, right? You are a leper. This person where leprosy is in you, and it's not going away, right? As for the leper who has the infection, his clothes shall be torn. The hair of his head shall be uncovered, and he shall cover his mustache and cry, unclean, unclean.
So why do they leave the mustache and take all his beard off?
And just cover it. They say cut off his beard.
It said,
What verse are you reading?
oh no, not okay. Never mind.
That's verse 45.
Okay, never mind.
Well, you asking that question, but I'm saying, I'm still asking the same question. Like, what does his mustache got to do with? Like, why is he covering his mustache?
Yes.
And saying that, and saying unclean, unclean.
It's upper
Is it
lip.
contagious? Is that why they have to?
Well, they're calling it infectious. It is a
Like
thing.
you put that mask on your face.
It
so
is
you
the
gotta
thing
do that.
where they treated it as if it was kind of
But it just said
contagious.
cover his
You gotta
upper
go
lip. It
away
don't
from
say,
everybody.
it just
What,
say like cover this part. But it don't say cover your mouth.
Well,
yeah, but how do you cover just that?
do you do this, like shouting, unclean, unclean, or do you do it?
What does it? What does
Well, I guess,
what does
okay,
your
yeah, that
book
makes
say?
sense.
I don't know.
You know what? When I read it, I'm thinking like
Mine
something's all
says, now
covered.
the upper
Like take
on whom the sword is on his
Bad
belly should be
days
torn, and his
That's what
head
I
and
was
beard, and he shall cover his mustache and cry unclean, unclean.
What's that, King James?
Yeah, so that is like this.
Mine
This is
says
King
upper
James.
lip.
That is like this.
Mine
Mine says
Upper
upper lip.
lip. Okay.
So unclean, unclean. I guess that's how you
Yeah.
do it. Okay.
45. Upper lip. Okay, so that word is safam, which is the beard as a lip piece, beard, upper lip. So
it's just that part.
mustache really would be kind of,
It's just
It's
that
not
part,
wrong.
right? Mine says mustache, and I have a literal
Yeah.
translation.
right. But it's not as if the infection is like
In the
only,
mustache.
it's like not only there.
And,
Because it started talking about the scalp or the beard. But I'm just saying, like, so what's that about, like, in terms of that causes you to kind of, well, what is it about?
they're covering it to shout unclean.
Like you shouting it out.
Like unclean,
Nah.
unclean.
You saying like making a microphone?
Unclean.
I want
So-
to
so now-
say it really loud.
They probably said
People
it
would know,
so they could know it.
I mean, why didn't they ever shave the mustache if they
Yes.
could save the beard?
I'm just thinking
I
myself.
don't. Hold on. Why you saying shave the
I was
mustache?
just going back.
I mean, no, I'm not saying. Didn't they say if the beard had to be shaved, right?
Not
No.
in the.
I think that's on the one when
Might be down.
Yeah,
you
he's
are
getting 25.
you'd have to do it again
45
and then
usually.
wait the 7 days. You have to shave everything, then wait another 7 days, and then you would be declared unclean if nothing was
If
wrong,
nothing
right?
was out, yeah.
Is that what?
But here I'm just trying to figure out what the connection is with the covering of this upper lip and then crying unclean. So we got like two people saying that it's just you just making a magnification thing,
Yeah.
which is
Why you laughing?
I'm not bad.
You're not
Make
No,
it
I don't think it's doing that because
Perfect.
it's covering. You're covering. This is not covering. This is kind of making a megaphone thing.
Yeah, make a cover
But
it.
it's covering is what the word is. To cover.
like this, like covering like this.
To
It
cover.
says he has
It's
to
to wrap,
cover
to
his
cover,
upper lip.
veil.
See,
Yeah,
Tara
so-
said maybe I was right then.
He has to cover.
Who are you saying?
I was saying to
He has
cover it.
to
or something.
cover his
Oh,
upper
he's
lip
saying she was saying not with your hand, but cover.
and
Not
cry.
which at first, but then when you said like this, I said, well, that makes sense. And
I'm
since
saying
he-
that-
since he's shouting, he has to proclaim, so that makes sense.
I'm saying that because it's talking about covering the upper lip. When you can't really cover your upper lip really without covering your mouth.
Well, contact, the contact
Well,
is
you can do
covered.
this.
You're not really covering your mouth, it's contact.
I think that
You can do that. Like, don't even cover your.
Wow.
I think that is causing us. I think it causes us to look. It causes us to look at, to continue the thought process of this evil speech being the beginning of it in the first place. You're covering up the weapon that you're covering up the part of you that's bringing the guilt on you in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right? And then it's also not only doing that, but it's restricting your speech to only that judgment that's that's on you, right? So when before potentially you were speaking ill about others, and now the only thing that you're able to do is now just proclaim your own guilt. Your
So
own
you was
judgment.
gonna be gossiping, like
No, I understand that because you're saying that when they cover their mouth, it's just they're not talking about nothing else but unclean, unclean. You know how people say, "I'll hit you in your upper lip," you know, staggering your lip. So if you keep it covered, or just like I had a little saying in my car, and it says, "Dear God, put your arm around me and cover my mouth with your other hand." So, so I won't have to be saying things that I have no business saying. So, and that's the same thing in that same sense. You cover your mouth, say unclean, and keep it stepping.
But I have a question. What's the significance in 45 of it mentioning, okay, he has the infection, his garments are torn, and his head is uncovered. What's the significance of that? And he has to cover his upper lip and cry. I'm trying to figure out what's the significance of mentioning that his garments are torn, his head is uncovered.
Yeah, because now we're just you. So like a mourning person would like rent their clothes,
okay,
right?
Okay.
So you just want to look like disheveled, like on purpose. You don't want nothing good to be about you, right? So you're on tear your clothes like I said up here. Never mind. But I'm just saying.
Wait, was you about to talk about me?
I mean, because in my commentary.
Yes, you was supposed to talk about me. You just looked over here.
Well, I'm trying not to, but you're making me do it. I'm trying not to do it. I'm just saying to walk around with torn garments is shameful, right? It's a shameful thing. You go to work every day. You don't have to.
You made him put you on the ass.
I
got torn garments here.
The commentary. It says these actions were signs of mourning for chronic skin diseases. Wait a minute. These actions were signs of mourning for chronic skin diseases, isolated the patients from life and family as if they had died. It is easy to see how leprosy became a metaphor for sin. Like serious skin diseases, sin is dangerous and ultimately fatal, often difficult to diagnose and incurable without God's intervention.
That's good. Very true. I mean, obviously, when you get like summoned, like how Miriam got summoned, like brought to the door of the tent, like it's a serious thing. And I think, you can't just go around like acting like we're okay. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that wasn't that bad. It's not that bad. I have leprosy. It's not that big of a deal, or whatever. We gotta actually kind of carry that shame along with it, which is why we gotta like tell people about it.
Oh, Sister Sarah got something in the text here. It says, maybe to prevent what we know now to be a droplet infection. Maybe it could also mean with a cloth fixed across the face, which right away distinguishes you from a distance. This is one of those things that point to the need for an oral law. Oh, my opinion. So, did you want to say what you wrote on this?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
You hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, that's I didn't know if I was going to have a voice. That's why I wrote it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe, covering the upper lip was, we know about droplet infection now, but they didn't know anything about that then. So maybe that's why they always said to cover that upper lip, affecting other people. Maybe, I don't know. But And then I thought, well, maybe that means, they wore to put a cloth across the face for the same reason. That you see a person walking around with that draped across their face, you know that there's something up. There's something wrong. That you need to stay, away from them. And then I'm also saying that, it's this kind of thing that when we're reading this is the kind of thing that needs to be clarified. Oftentimes when we're reading this, there's all these little particular points that need to be straightened out, and I think that points to the fact that there's law, because there's all these little points that we just need to be clarified, and I don't see why that wouldn't arise even back then. Among the people. So what does this mean, and how are we supposed to do this?
Yeah. Well, when we think about looking at this, what you're saying in terms of a cloth or whether it's a cloth or a hand, whatever it may be, you have this. And here it goes further in that verse in terms of, the torn clothes and everything. You're making sure that is known that you are, this leper, that you are truly a Metzora. You're not hiding it. So now if we think about the connection between, leprosy and sin, then we would think about it in terms of if I'm somebody who is in some type of gross iniquity, but I still have, which I guess it really doesn't make sense to be in gross iniquity and then also kind of be aware of what Torah will call for me to do. But if we're saying that,
you might have a mental understanding, a mental knowledge, not actually
Well, I'm saying it just to say how we would think about this would be somebody being in gross iniquity, but not covering up the fact that they're in gross iniquity, not walking around, looking righteous. If gross iniquity looked like something, you would be walking around looking like that, as opposed to, whatever looking righteous means. When we think about this whole thing here, in terms of the leper, again, this was a mark. Yahweh put the mark on you in the first place. So now he's calling for the person not to try to cover up the mark, but to just let it be known, in the event that you do come around, because you were cast away. But in the event that you did come around, everybody around had to know that you were you were a leper.
Yeah. I think about that being like how people have secret sin.
Yeah. Right.
And you know what I mean? Most of the time when people sin, well, unless they're just around a whole bunch of sinners, it don't matter because everybody there is a sinner. But you know what I mean? Most of the time when people actually want people to respect them or they want to be looked at a certain way, they sin in secret. And it's like, even when people talk about people, they normally talk about people behind their back. They don't talk about them to their face, And so it's kind of like now what you might have in your heart or what's in secret might be something that's now is on the outside. So now people are actually looking at you and knowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a sign that's upon you in your skin. You can't really deny it because it's,
Wow.
And then you have to tell people about it too. It's a humbling experience.
Well, yeah, that reminds me of that verse was done in the dark will be revealed in the light. So Yahweh exposes people as well. I know.
So when we see,
And we want to be exposed. I think we want to be exposed. I don't want to go and sin, and my sin don't be exposed, or at least be made known to me.
I think it's a sin that they, well, I guess it could.
You know what I mean?
Sin they wasn't aware of.
And I mean, like, even when Miriam talked against Moses, Yah could have required her life. He just gave her leprosy for a time. You know what I mean? So it's like leprosy, you can't overcome it.
you can't.
Everybody.
It's not something that's gonna take you out.
She was gonna sin. Yeah.
So when we look at this thing, looking at it kind of in its totality, it's a thing that comes upon you. Again, we're thinking about it as being this seed that has been sown and manifests, where it can grow, right? It grows. If you think about a seed, it grows like when you feed it, right? A seed grows when you feed it, when you plant it, when you take care of it, when you nurture it, right? It grows. And so when we look at leprosy again, when it's active, right? That's when you're unclean. When the sin is active, that's when you're unclean. But if now that sin is not active, if it gets to the place where it's just the scars or the residue of the past sin, right, then you're declared clean. So I think when we're thinking about this, in regards to, comparing leprosy to sin, or this thing that brings about sin, it causes us to be able to, we might not be able to recognize, a leper today in 2017. But when we think about people who maybe sow seeds of sin, that we know of, those things should be exposed. Because, in the body of Messiah, you can't have, it's the same thing. You can't have the leper, right? The leper should be expelled, right? Until that seed is not active, until that infection has kind of, covered over and is not, manifesting itself. If we're thinking about it in terms of something that's coming out of your mouth, right? Someone who is always, talking badly about someone, right? We could easily put that person into this situation where the judgment on the leper was that you're not, if I see you, the only thing you should be talking about is your own situation, is your own sin, is your own judgment that the Most High has put on you, and not, what Jane did, or, what whoever was getting into.
I don't think anybody does that. Most people, they try to take it off of them. What? Well, most people don't like to look at what they did. They are quick to point at what somebody else is doing. Well, you did this.
Right.
Yeah.
Then even if they say something to you, like what you said, you always are going to deflect it to somebody else.
I bring it right back in there. I bring it right back. I'll be like, well, you know what? Well, I did this. I shouldn't be. I mean, it's like that. Yes. That conviction comes just like that.
Yes, it does.
As soon as I be like, well, you shouldn't be.
Yes.
They come right back. Well, you shouldn't have did this. I'll be like, let me shut my mouth and repent along with you. So hands to repent.
Right. So when we think about that, when you think about the fact that most people won't look at their own self, right? That's a problem, right?
So that's why the priest
Because
goes
here,
with you, right?
right, because when we look right here, that's not what's going on, right? The person, the leper's not sitting up there saying back to the priest, you know, well, what about you? Like,
Yeah, no, they ain't
right?
doing
It's
that.
not about that.
They ain't
Right?
doing that.
Right? He's just being inspected, and he's accepting what's being expected of him, and he's going off and doing it. If the judgment remains, then there must be that seed must not have been rooted out, right? But we see it goes away. If it gets better, then eventually the process is done. But if it stays the same, and then you are a leper, right? Then you need to be out, right? Because you know you're remaining in your sin. You're remaining in your situation. You're remaining in that place that caused you to get judgment against you in the first place.
And it says, he shall live alone. Verse 46. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. It's like, you know, you really are cut off.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like like how whenever, you know, there's judgments given in the scriptures that you be cut off from the people. It's kind of like a temporary, you know, cutting off.
Death.
It's a temporary death, yeah. And it really is a judgment. I was thinking about with the priest looking at the person, how they have to inspect the offerings at the temple. And just as, you know, we're supposed to be living sacrifices, you know what I mean? Holy and acceptable. And if we're getting inspected and we have, you know, if we have this a seed that's been planted inside of us that's not holy and righteous and acceptable, then we're not going to pass that inspection. It's you know, it's just something we got to make sure we do our own introspection.
You know what I'm thinking about is the other verse where he checks them and then it's still there. And you gotta go another 7. Oh my goodness! You're like, you're hoping he says it's not deeper than, and then you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
So
I think about like car problems whenever I think about that. Like, you know, when the mechanic looks over your car or whatever. I mean, we just had this experience. That's the reason that I have this thought.
I think the difference is though, like when you're thinking about yourself, right? It's different with a car because you don't really know the inner workings of what's going on underneath.
But you know yourself.
You know your own self.
Yeah, you do.
Right? Yeah. So it's kind of like not dealing with reality to be on the outside hoping that the priest can tell that you're on the outside. Right? In this deep down, you know what's there. And you just hope that he can't see
what's there, that you know is there.
Yeah.
But the thing is that that's how I think all of us, in some respect, in our pride of life, in our ego, in our mind, we somehow think that we can outsmart the Most High. You know what I mean? We think we know. We think we can get over. I mean, I'm talking about my own self. Like, I'm just saying, in general terms, in the ego, it's the pride of life, right?
Well, what if somebody's walking and don't know that they're doing something?
I mean,
like, what if somebody's walking wrong and don't know?
Because I know for myself, just I had mentioned this myself when I had went to Carl's and God told me I need to write, and I'm thinking I'm okay, and I was like, I'm cool, you know, I'm doing everything right. Yeah. And when I started writing, he showed me from deep down inside
that you wasn't aware of.
I wasn't even aware of it, but it came up, and so once I started writing the different things what these questions were, then things came up that I did have deep resentment against somebody, and you know, and I pushed it down. But I didn't deal with it. So he showed me what I needed to be clean about. I would have been the one going back to outside the camp. Because it would have been like, okay, you
passed the test. Go ahead back out there.
Because I would have still been sitting for another 10 days or whatever it took. Because of that sin that I was still carrying around, that I decided to cover up inside of myself and thought that I pushed away, was pushed away, but I didn't deal with it.
That's a good point too. Because I can think of like somebody will do something to me, and I'm like, oh, I'm fine, I forgive you. But really, did I really? You know, and then he's like, and then the Most High will be like, you really did.
Right.
So
we
now
we are.
you gotta go over there and, you know, I don't know, do whatever, you know, help them with something. And he's real funny about it. He's real comical with that. He'll then send you over there and tell you to go help them do something. You're like, but they just did this to me.
I thought you forgave.
But I thought you forgave. Yeah. So
and even with them, they might have still been thinking about, well, I'm still thinking who Moses think he is. You know, in their heart. Yeah, like he got to be a leader. Still grumbling inside.
Yeah, it happens, and more things happen sometimes, and we're unaware.
That's true.
Of it. And so sometimes until you like see that person or come around that person, like you might have forgot. You know, if I've not seen this person for years, then you get around them and be like, you know.
But that's how these things get brought up. Yes, you can get in a situation where out of sight, out of mind kind of the thing, but when you come back together with these individuals or what have you, then you see. And then now it's not. Yeah, now it's right back in the forefront, and you understanding that maybe there is some kind of something that needs to be taken care of, which is the same situation in terms of the priest, or Yeshua, the high priest, is showing you yourself. Now, what you do from there, right, is now are you accepting the judgment? Yahweh sees this. You can just call it wickedness inside of you, and now you're gonna go away and deal with it,
which we should be.
Or you're just gonna carry it around.
Right, because you did.
That's good, because you gotta search your. He sent you back. You gotta search yourself.
Right.
You will get it. You will get that come up. You know, if you do self, examination. Yeah.
If you're in isolation, that's all you have.
And pray.
You don't have the distractions of life.
He shall live alone. Verse 46.
And you don't have no distraction. That's what I said. I said, man, my kids moved out and I'm by myself. Boy, I got some peace. I got some peace in the house. You can meditate and think about some stuff when you don't have a lot of distractions.
I found this in Josephus, Antiquities of Jews. It says, and for the lepers, he suffered them not to come into the city at all, nor to live with any others, as if they were, in effect, dead persons. But if anyone had obtained by prayer to Elohim the recovery from that distemper and had gained a healthful complexion again, such a one returned thanks to Elohim with several sorts of sacrifices, concerning which we will speak hereafter. So this thing about this whole leprosy thing, again, if it is a judgment, it's a judgment that comes as a result of something. If that something ceases to be, if that thing that caused the leprosy stops, then it seems like the leprosy stops. It's not something that comes and stays on you forever. When you go away and when that seed is no longer being manifest, then you're accepted back. But the reason for the separation is not just it's not forever. It's to see how that thing can be healed.
What about if it's in clothes?
Now,
clothes didn't do nothing.
Okay, now we think about the clothes. The clothes still give us a picture of what's going on with an individual, right? So when we look at in the garments, if it's spread, right? If the mark has got down to starts talking about the garments when like 47, when a garment has leprosy in it. Then 49 talks about the different color of it, The article is shown to the priest. Down 50. Then the priest shall look at the mark and shall quarantine the article with the mark for 7 days. So the article of clothing has the classification of being leprous.
It seems like any type of material.
Yeah, whatever type of material it was.
Leather, it could be wool, linen.
If there's leprosy in it, then he puts it away for 7 days. If the mark has spread in the garment, then it's unclean. So we have the same kind of a situation with the garment. If it's present and it spreads, it's unclean. But we talking about clothes, you can burn it. Right? You can burn it. It's burnt. Because we're saying that it's spread. It's not getting better, right? It's spread, you burn it. It's kind of unrepairable. Okay, 53 down. But if the priest shall look and indeed the mark didn't spread, and then you keep on looking at that, the article was washed. 55, after the article was washed, the priest shall look again, and if the mark has not changed in its appearance, it stayed the same. Even though the mark did not spread, it's unclean. He washed it, but it's still there. You wash the thing, and it's still there. So it's unclean. It's a garment. Get rid of it. Right? So if we're thinking about leprosy and sin as being the seed of sin, if we're thinking about it, you washing it, it ain't going nowhere. It's still there. It didn't go away. You washed it, even though you washed it, it's still there. It didn't get bigger, but that little bit is still there. That's no good, right?
So if it comes back,
well,
if it spreads, you just destroy it in fire.
If you spread, destroy it.
If not, you wash it, you wait another 7 days and then bring it back.
And if it stays the
If
same,
it stays the same, then you burn it. But if it fades, verse 56.
Then 56, if it fades
after it was washed,
after it's been washed, then you tear that out, that faded part, you tear that out. It says, and if it appears again in a garment, so you tore out and washed and it faded. So now you tear out the part that was there. But if it comes back, now you got an outbreak, burn it. So what you want to happen is to wash it and it be gone. It be told you want to be able to wash it and it be gone.
You know what I mean? It starts spreading.
Yeah, that is
scary.
You have to look at it how mold does. Mold does that.
Because mold does that. Yeah, mold can just spread and grow and.
Right, in your clothes and if it's wet and throw it away.
In your house.
Right, exactly.
I was thinking about like cutting out like a piece of rottedness out of the fruit and eating the rest of it.
Well, essentially, that's what we're talking about. You getting rid of
you get rid of the part that
bad part. But now, if you cut the bad part out and then more comes up somewhere else,
on the other,
you got to burn everything.
Because it's already spoiled.
Yeah, right. So is this does this have anything to do with like symbolizing like how bad your sin is or how long you were in it since it's turning?
I mean, well, it could be that, but but here we're talking about
describing it's a bad. It's a bad infection now.
The severity is part of it
coming out.
But I think what we got to think about is the getting rid of it. Right? Is it something that's growing? If it's growing, then there's a problem because first of all, why did it start in the first place?
And how long it's been there? And
right? How did it get there in the first place?
Yeah.
I'm away, but it's still getting worse. So I'm still feeding that seed that was planted. I'm still feeding that because it's still growing. Even if I wash it, now we're talking about clothes, even if I wash it, it's still spreading.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
I'm just thinking about just the soul, like, and the sickness that could be in people, and you know what I mean, in our soul. And just trying to get rid of and washing with the water of the word. And you know what I mean? Like, just that ruach coming in and repairing the damage and everything like that. Just allowing the ruach to have that ability to repair it. But when we're looking at this time, it's just looking at it being burned.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like that's just the severest judgment there is. Like, you know what I mean? You just destruction, just destroying.
Well, we see the difference between the individual and the garment. The garment is a garment. You can get rid of it. The individual now, he always gets to be. He can be inspected. If we see that it's going away, then it's good. Eventually, he keeps on. He keeps on having. We looked at
It's another change.
we read that Psalm today, 78 and 38. 78 and 38. Taking me a long time to get to it. 78, 38, but he, Elohim, being full in compassion, forgave their iniquity and destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned he his anger away and did not stir up all his wrath.
Yeah.
When we think about Yahweh and his loving kindness, his compassion, we have times and times again to return back to. He gives us chances, right? If we're alive, we have a chance to come to the priest and be inspected to see, where we are. But with the garment, right? A garment, it's just that it's a garment, but it's a picture. It shows us a picture of the fact that we can't have that that sin growing. We can't have that sin present or growing. That sin got to be.
And if it's faded, it gotta be cut out.
If it's faded, it got to be. We don't want it there at all, because if it's only faded, it's still there, right? We got to get rid of it. Yeshua said, "If your right eye offends you, then pluck it out." Right? That's what he said. I met somebody who did that.
Well, I don't
Oh,
think
he really meant that.
literal.
Right?
I'm just saying, I met somebody who did that. He was,
He's crazy.
yeah, he was.
Right,
He was in a mental institution, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
All right, just don't do that, please.
But the point is that if we think about that conceptually, that's the point. You want to get the sin out. You want to get the sin out. You don't want to be plucking your eyeballs out, obviously, but you want to get the sin out.
There was Dahlia said in Revelation, those who did not get washed clean by Messiah did those who did not get washed clean by Messiah, I guess they get the mark, and are cast into the fire. They're cast into the fire.
Just think about that. Think about that as being a garment.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Yeshua can't wash you. You just think of your own self as a garment, but Yeshua is not able to wash you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Whatever ways that is used by Yeshua to wash you, and it don't work. Right? The washing don't work on you for some reason. Well, yeah, but you good for nothing at that point, right?
Yeah.
If Yeshua can't wash you, then then you will end up being burnt up, right? So when we think about it kind of in the totality, it is kind of like the garment, where if all that his washing can do for you is just kind of get that surfaceness off, that's not good enough. You're going to end up getting burned up.
Even if you rip it out and it spreads somewhere else.
Right. I don't think of that in the medical field, how many times we seen the cubitus and cancer and stuff, and how they start cutting away their bodies, over and over until you see the sores, and how sometimes it's so ugly you can see the bone where they don't want to try to get out the bad skin, and then it comes to a time you can't do nothing more. It's just there.
So if you think about that cancer as like sin, It's not really a difference, really. It's a cancer in your soul, sin, and it will just eat you away if that thing is not rooted out.
Well, I was just thinking about the need for conversion too. Like our souls have to be converted. Like, you know, if all the washing the word does is we see that we need to do Shabbat and we do that, or we see we need to, I'm sorry, these are just surface things. These aren't, you know what I mean? Like I see, oh, I need to do this. I need to stop eating pork or something like that. I'm just giving surface stuff. These are surface things in the Torah. These are commandments. But if I do all these things, I put fringes on my clothes and stuff like that, and then I have a ugly heart. You know what I mean? Like I can't love my brother. I can't love my sister. I can't love my children. A husband can't love his wife, or a wife can't love her husband, or whatever. You know what I mean? I can't forgive someone. Then it don't really matter. The surface cleansing that might have been done because I started doing these things that are in the Torah isn't really enough, right? Because I'm still in my sin. I'm still like lost. I might be doing these things that are good things to do. I'm not saying they're not good things to do, but you know what I mean. The water washed the surface. It didn't get to the heart. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's exactly,
right. So that's excellent, because when we look at this whole idea of the garment, we look at this idea of the garment. You know, we might think about it as harsh in terms of the garment getting burned up, but when we think about, as you brought up, our soul, that's where we need to be at in terms of that garment. There can't be no parts of that leprosy on the garment, which is your soul. There can't be no parts of that sin left. If you just wash the top layer off, well, you know, what about the inside? It's just going to grow back. It's just going to grow back. But if I go out here and cut the dandelion, just at the surface of the grass, that root is still there. It's going to grow back again.
That reminds me of Miss Miriam's plants outside that you can't ever get off. You can't ever get rid of them. She planted those perennials out there. He has dug that ground up, dug it up. Those things come back. They don't come back as much.
You said Miss Miriam. I'm like, who in the world are you talking about? But I know you talking about now. Yeah. We talk about her like we know her.
Right. She's the lady that
meet her a couple times, but still. But that's true though. When you think about that, she planted all these perennial flowers, and if I just don't do nothing, some little beautiful flowers is gonna come up still, even though I planted vegetables back there and everything else. Because down deep is them bulbs where they just keep on coming back. And it's the same thing.
The cement into the ground.
Yeah, it's the same thing with sin. Sin is the same way. If that thing's not uprooted and destroyed, it's gonna come back. So when we start doing things, that's why we look back at the old covenant, which was just about really just doing things. It was never able to make you righteous. It was never able to change your heart. It just caused you to be able to do things. It's just stuff that's being done on the surface where it's not, your heart is not being changed. So when we look at this thing about the garments, the old covenant really is a picture of that garment, right? That's being washed. It's being washed, and it's that deep down, that deep set in sin is fading, but essentially it's still there.
When Yahshua comes, he cleanses us from all unrighteousness.
All unrighteousness.
So he don't just cover it up, but he cleanses us from it.
But also, too, back to what you were saying, like, it made me think of some things. Like, some people wear what they are actually following or obeying in Torah like a badge of honor. Like, you know, if you don't have the fringes, if your head isn't covered, if you're wearing this or doing that, you know, if you're not doing this, then you ain't one of his. Or if you're not doing, and I'm talking about like following every letter of the outward stuff, you know, and then you're like, boy, even you just saying that just seems very nasty. You know what I mean? You just kind of boasting yourself up there, you know. But just how about how you treat people, and how about how you show love to people, and you know, that's just what spiritual was talking about. It makes you wonder.
Yeah, it really should be a total package.
Yeah.
Being
you don't know, maybe that person
walking,
can't afford to get that right now. You know what I mean? So
I mean, walking in this way does look a certain way.
Yeah.
It does look a certain way, but when I'm sitting up here, you know, and like you saying, if that's all there is the look,
then what else?
Then it's just like this garment. It's, I done washed away the external layers. The external layers, what used to be, I used to walk around with my pants hanging down and you know, all of this, but now maybe I cleaned up and you know what I mean, on the outside, but the inside
is messed up.
Still got them stains inside.
Then we have to look at how the Pharisees were, and that were exactly that. They looked the way, but they're in their heart, they were somebody different.
That man's
exactly. So we do have to be careful about what the outside look like, because it is what the inside look like.
But the outside will look away. It'll still look away, but the inside will be clear.
Right. It'll be both.
But our outside should look like the characteristic of God. That's who we should look like. And walk in his ways. That's right. Because when we start getting caught up with clothing and stuff, then we looking at a lot of different
act the way you look.
People out here that got different garments, and we can all say, oh, but that's not the right garment. That's not the right garment. Because we're getting caught up in material. We're not getting caught up in what God actually has us to do, because we're so busy trying to dress ourselves up to look a certain way, but we're not walking that way that we look.
It should be both.
Dahlia said, act the way you look and look the way you act. So it's the, you know, everything, full package.
Right, it's a total package. You can't be one sided.
I'm not saying you should go out there and be walking around looking like a whore or looking like any type of way like that. But I'm saying, look, decent and respectful. But when we start coming into garbs and stuff like that, then people start really trying to boast upon themselves. And just like we see the people in the corner, they look, they walk, but their mouths say a whole lot of difference.
But it's funny too, because like I haven't been in the truth that long, but I mean I still knew right from wrong, how you should and shouldn't dress, modesty and all that. But just as you're coming in and you're first learning, and two people just start attacking you, you know, like, okay, I'm just learning. I don't know all of that yet. I mean, you know, as I'm reading and I'm studying, I'll get there. Nobody gives you the opportunity to get to where they are now.
Right. And most of the time, it's the surface things that people are going to get on your case about. It's not, you know, it's the surface things. Like, I think Ebony said, did you say you brought some fruit somewhere before? And people jumped on your case because it didn't have seeds in it or something like that. You know what I mean? Or it's just something that's surfacey is all I'm trying to say. It's not about your heart. It's not about who you are as a person. It's about something that is on the surface. Something you could do or you could not do, or give or give or take. It's not something that's like, or you a sinner on your way to the lake of fire. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not about your soul. You know? And it's really sad. It is. And it's really sad. Like, it crushes your spirit, and
then you start shutting down.
That's right.
And then you don't want to,
because you came with a gift, and they're like, oh, we don't want that kid. You know what I mean? Or you came with the offering, or you came, you know what I mean? And you get shut down, and that can really crush your spirit. You know?
Yeah, it can.
That's all the people trying to do better and eat healthy. Trying to slowly cut less meat out of their diet. And then you get somebody saying, well, you shouldn't eat baby carrots or baby spinach. And you're just like,
what in the world? Like, just let me comes in the door, right? It's just really sad. It's just sad. It's sad when people put those types of things on people. But meanwhile, it's like, where are you at?
Oh my goodness.
So when we look at this, whole thing about the leper and leprosy, and looking at it, comparing it to sin, and seeing the process, the process looks like repentance and forgiveness. It looks like a change that's going on with that person who was a leper, and then his acceptance back into the situation, right? He turns away. We look at the process in terms of the leper, where he's given a chance. He's given a chance to change. He's inspected to see whether or not he stayed the same, or whether he was changed. So when we look at the word for repentance, the word for repentance is naham. Naham. Naham means to sigh, to breathe strongly, to breathe. Strongly, to be sorry. To be sorry.
Okay.
Naham. So when we think about the idea of being sorry, the idea of repentance, there's a change that's intrinsic with, the idea. If I do something to you, and I say that I feel bad about the thing that I did to you, but yet still I do the thing repeatedly to you, then I'm not sorry. I'm not really sorry. Right? If I do something and I say, oh, I'm sorry, but I keep on doing it, right? That's not Naham. That's not Naham.
And that's true too, because people say it so much. They say the word sorry, like, oh, sorry. But then it's like, what are you really sorry about, and why do you keep saying that? And to be very honest and transparent, I used to be a person saying that all the time. And why I don't have any reason most times to be sorry, but it's more like a habitual word. I keep, like, if I just tap your back, oh, I'm sorry. I have a bad habit of just always saying
I always say, excuse me.
Yeah, I should. That's more appropriate. But just saying sorry, and then when it's time to really be sorry, then am I really sorry?
It is something that randomly comes to your mind.
And knowing when to really be
Right.
repentant.
Right.
But sorry doesn't always mean repentant, because people sometimes are sorry because they got caught.
Right.
But that's not. But that okay. So
if you're sorry because you got caught, that means you would have did it if you knew you wasn't going to get caught. You would have planned to do that.
Okay, but now when you talk about that, when you talk about being sorry,
sorry,
when you get like, say I steal something, and then like you say I get caught,
then you'll regret it.
and then there's regret that I got caught, but I'm not.
The consequences make you
right. So you're sorry about the consequences, but not about the thing that got you there in the first place.
Yeah.
So it is sorrow. There is regret.
Yeah.
And it's true regret.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked about two different things though.
Yeah.
There's a thing and then there's a consequences. I can be sorry and have regret because of the consequences, and that'd be some true sorrow. But there needs to be some true sorrow connected to the thing that got you the consequences in the first place.
Yes. So what is that then? If somebody, like, say a murderer, they killed somebody. Now they got to do life in jail.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're sorry
that they're
for
in jail.
that they're in jail.
Yeah.
Oh, but are they really sorry for their desire to kill this person? Like,
Yes.
if they would have
those
been,
things ain't connected to each other.
because if they would have got get away for it, they would have did it again.
Right.
So
you find a lot of people who may have true regret.
So is that repentance though?
That's not repentance. It's repentance. It's repentance.
If you're sorry for the consequence.
But it don't have nothing to do with, like, say for instance, like with the thing that you just said. Yes, it's true repentance.
Still true repentance. Okay.
But it's repentance towards really the wrong thing.
Okay, it's true repentance for getting caught.
But that's what it is. But that's where it stops. That's where it stops at. But you got to have the true repentance really for the actual thing that you've done. You know, just because you have true repentance don't necessarily mean
it's for the right thing.
Right.
Okay.
It might be real and it's authentic.
Because I used to be like, they're not truly repenting. They just regret they got caught. They're sorry they got caught. So they repented that they got caught.
Because they're embarrassed more than they're sorry.
Yeah, but I've never seen that or looked at that or would have considered that true.
When we think about,
because I always think of repentance of really repenting of the sin, being free from that desire to even do that thing in the beginning. But they still have the desire to do it. So how is that true repentance?
It is true repentance, but it's not repentance that would bring about any type of reconciliation in terms of your relationship with Yahweh, because you're not repenting of the right things.
But isn't true repentance though getting rid of the desire ever to want to do the sin in the first place? Does not the desire have to leave you before you consider that true repentance?
Oh, again, we got to talk about.
Like a lot of people get out of jail and do the same thing over.
I think that really they have a relationship with the Most High, because you're still out there in the world and you're still hanging on to.
No, I'm saying even if it's repentance for the consequence. I'm saying, is it really true repentance if you get out and do it again? They have repeat offenders who's sorry they got caught.
Right, again.
But is that true repentance?
And just in the pure definition of the word, if you're sorry that you got caught, you really are sorry that you got caught. But in terms of being repentant unto Yahweh for the sin that you've done unto Yahweh and to man of that, there is no repentance.
Right, because they're not sorry for the thing that they done. They just were sorry for the thing that they got.
So it's not as if to say
saying that I'm sorry.
It's not as if to say that you can receive salvation because you have true repentance.
No, I wasn't even talking about salvation now. I was talking like you. Like they're just sorry for the country.
And sometimes they'll say they're sorry for they got caught.
Have the desire.
They don't say that they upset about what they did.
Oh, okay, I get it. They don't desire the consequence. They just desire the sin. But they have true repentance. they can still have the sin. Okay.
I think the problem is that you have people who will have that regret and sorrow attached to the consequences and not attached to what was actually done. Where it's not enough. It's not enough to be sorry because that's selfish. I've done something to you, but I'm only sorry about the effect that me doing something to you had on me.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! That's what people do.
That's what it is.
Like, man, you just murdered that person. Yeah, but I cut my finger.
Yeah.
Well, I'm mad that I gotta be punished for what I did to somebody else.
But
Yeah.
isn't that even happening in the world now?
Right, exactly.
Because now, if a thief comes in your house and you try to defend your home, you're at fault.
Well, it depends.
Depending upon what happened. So you
Yeah.
can't even
And it depends on who you are.
home. Yeah, that's true.
Right. You're not allowed to shoot them in their back, but if they come in your house, you can shoot them in their face.
Yeah.
And you're
If
because they wasn't running,
if
because they wasn't running
breaking in
away.
your house and they tripped over your furniture,
Make a mess
and
around, see,
then they can
win.
sue you. It doesn't make
Right.
any sense to me. Like, they're trying to break in my house.
Even if you save somebody, if you crush their ribs, you can get
Yeah,
sued.
but they
Right.
tripped on a
Mhm.
toy, breaking in my house, and so now I'm at fault.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Wow.
I just.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget which state or where that happened
That
at,
don't
but
sound
somebody
right.
with
They
the
get
robber trying to
sue the person they
yes,
was trying to
Ah!
yes,
because they got injured on their property.
yes.
Ah!
Great.
Yeah.
I
just was
That's
like,
a perfect example right there.
Yeah.
So again, when we think about the idea of repentance,
Yeah.
we can't think about necessarily this concept of being repentant of the consequences,
They're not
because
repenting of the sin. They're just
that's what
repenting
we
of the
need to be thinking about. So
Okay.
so say for
I got
instance,
I had that.
say for
I got
instance in regards
I've never
to
looked at
the
that.
leprosy. If I was a leper and then now I'm coming to the priest and instead of dealing with, again, leprosy being this plague of Yahweh, the plague of leprosy, and I'm dealing with all this sorrow and regret for these symptoms.
Yeah.
What about the thing that was done by you to cause you to have this thing in the first place? Right? Because again, if this leprosy wasn't just something that you just catch like chicken pox, right? It's the plague of leprosy. It was something that came on you as a result of something. So in terms of, giving us the picture of repentance, there is something within that person that needs to be turned from, in order for, if we're going to say that this plague of leprosy is coming as a result of something,
Yes,
there's something that needs to be turned away from. There's some type of thing that you need to not be doing anymore, that you need to be sorry and regretful about, so that you can move forward. Whatever that sin was.
Wouldn't that be an example of how you always called on Paul when he was out there murdering everybody and
right. So for him to have that experience with Yeshua, and then after that experience that he had with Yeshua, go back to doing what he was doing before that, then that wouldn't have been the Cham. That wouldn't have been his shoes. That wouldn't have been him turning or returning to Yahweh. He had that experience with Yeshua, Paul did, and that was a life-changing experience that he had. He actually changed and turned from what he was doing, and he turned the world upside down ever since, right? So he changed. He turned from, if we was to say that Paul was a leprous, and he was inspected by the priest, and he was declared clean. And so then he walked in that that new judgment that he had from Yeshua ever since. So then people wasn't really able to look at him and deal with him based on what he did do. They was dealing with him now as this new declaration that he had as the apostle of Yeshua. Was the same thing with the leper. If you were a leper and you went through all of the processes and you were declared clean, you was clean. You was no longer a leper. You was clean now. You was declared clean by the priest.
I think we just need to be desirous to be declared clean.
Yeah.
And get clean.
And get.
And allow him to cleanse us.
Self-examination is good.
So again,
but it hurts. The process,
right?
It's because the ego gets chipped away at. You know,
when we think about the idea of washing, and that's what the word does for us, it washes us. Right? We're washed by the cleansing of the word. Right? If you think about this garment that has this stain on it. And you think about them little brushes that you had. I know back in the old days they had them washboards. Where you sit up there and scrub that stuff on them. I never did it. I never did it because that was before my time. But I know what's her name, sister. Mother Baker, she
has the instrument.
She play a washboard. She play that thing.
She got to stick with the washboard.
But the washboard looks like a big old grater or something. This big old metal thing where you're sitting up there rubbing them clothes on there, right?
Oh yeah,
because if the washing machine.
I remember them washing machines.
My mom had that as a backup.
Squeezing things at the top. Them rollers.
Yeah.
You had to roll your clothes.
Yeah.
Right. I got a scar on my arm right now from playing with it. My hand got caught in it and I was trying to fight the machine, trying to get it out.
But the point is, it's not just water pouring. It's not just water pouring on dirt.
Just like
there's scrubbing and there's agitation.
Right.
There's agitation and movement and shaking and all. Where it's not just water pouring on.
Right.
It hurts. You got to get down deep into them fibers and the fabrics and get all that stuff up out of it.
That's interesting.
So when we think about this, like from a spiritual perspective, right, that's the thing that's really going to bring true regret and sorrow and turning in the first place is that internal washing that will go on. If I'm kind of callous on the inside in terms of, my actions, I don't really care. It's not going to cause any change, right? If I just get like a little physical kind of smack on the wrist, where my heart really is not into, the situation at all, it's not affecting me internally, right? I'm not going to have true regret. I don't really care. I just, whatever.
Like, for example, I didn't care.
Emotion.
Let me just give an example. I didn't care about parking in Oakland and my meter running out at the library until somebody got a $40 ticket because they went outside, after their meter ran out. I said, $40? Then I got my stuff up and ran out because I'd rather pay the 25 cents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that sometimes we have these sins in us and we don't really be thinking about it. Like, we just
I'm not paying no 25 cents.
But then you get the penalty like a fine.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, hold on. I don't want that. I don't want that consequence. So I'd rather go out and pay 25. I'd rather get rid of this little bit of thing I'm trying to hold on to. This 25 cents I'm trying to hold on to. I'd rather get rid of that because I don't want the greater consequence, which is the penalty, the fine. You know what I mean? I'd rather get a little Africa, take her out of here. You know?
So I want to, as we think about the idea of repentance and forgiveness, connected to what we see with leprosy in terms of how the priest looks at the leper and how he's treated in terms of being cast away and being received back again after he's been changed. I wanted to look at Ephesians as we think about the leprosy concept. We're looking over at Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 5. Verse 1, where it says, "Be you therefore followers of Elohim as dear children." Followers, or imitators, or mimickers of Elohim as beloved children. As the children of Elohim, as the sons and daughters of Elohim, we should be mimickers then of Elohim, right? We should do the things that he do, right? So when we think about this idea of forgiveness, we looked at that verse in Psalm 78:38 that deals with the compassion of Yahweh. We look at the priest and the leper, and we see compassion involved in that, where it wasn't as if the leprous person just came and first time you see a leper, oh, you're done forever. Right? He looked at him and then he sent him away. He let him come back. He looked at him again. If he was better, that was good. Then he cleaned up and then whatever. If he went through the processes and then there wasn't no change, then that's one thing. But if you got better, there was, you had that opportunity to be received, right? We see that concept of forgiveness, where we see that concept of compassion and mercy, where I'm not just going to just be done with you, right? So we, as the children of Elohim, we are mimickers of Elohim, imitators of Elohim, imitators of Yeshua. We're coming back to Ephesians, but when we look over at Matthew in chapter 6, chapter 6, 12 through 15. Somebody read that. Matthew 6. We're going back to Ephesians, so we're trying to figure out how Yeshua wants for us to be.
And forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
14 and 15. 14 and 15.
Okay. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses.
Okay, so when we think about, that was Matthew 6, 12 through 15. When we look at the commands for the leper, we can see the principle of forgiveness. We can see the opportunity for change and healing and return back to right relationship. But when we look at what Yeshua, so again, we look over in Ephesians, thinking about the idea of being imitators of Elohim, walking in the character of Elohim as children. We see that Yeshua here says, if you forgive men their trespasses, the Heavenly Father will forgive you. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither shall your Father forgive your trespasses. So a way that we can be imitators or mimickers of Elohim as beloved children of Elohim is by having compassion, having a heart for forgiveness. And not only just having a heart, but understanding that if we get to a place where we're not able to have a heart of compassion and forgiveness, then we're not going to have our trespasses forgiven by Elohim. What if the priest just looked at that leper and was like, "Oh man, I ain't messing with you. Get out of here. Don't come back. Period. Forget about this whole 7-day thing. I ain't trying to deal with you at all." But that's how we do with people, ain't it? They transgress us. They trespass against us. I'm like, man, I'm done with you.
Right.
I mean, that's what I used to say a lot. I used to say, I'm just so done with the rap. It's a wrap. Done.
I forgive you, but I just don't want to mess with you no more. I'm just done with you.
It's awful.
That ain't really, I don't really know if that's real, if you really do forgive a person.
Yeah, exactly.
If I could forgive you, but I can't mess with you, then I'm not sure if I really forgive you.
But could it be just for a period of time, not messing with them?
Well, the period that the priest gave was a week.
I mean, suppose you can forgive them.
I give you a week.
You don't want to get back in that same situation. I'm forgive you. And, you know, we just going to go on our own separate ways. I mean, and I can like speak to you being cordial, but not.
But are you, I'm trying to figure out if you're really forgiving them or if you're just
trying
to.
It is forgiving.
Like,
is it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
You saying it is.
I mean,
but if they come back around, that you're going to feel a certain kind of way?
No, I will still feel all right as long as we're not getting our same circumstances.
Yeah, but some people, you forgive them, but you know they'll draw you into something you don't need to.
Right, exactly.
You have to be around.
You have to distance yourself.
It's you forgive, but you don't go back to the same relationship
you make
that you
peace
had.
with that
right.
person, but then you have to move on. Otherwise, they're going to entangle you in more gossip and drama and stuff. You are trying to live a different life. You know?
So what I'm saying in relation to what we're looking at is that we have to be able to be sure that this distinction that we making with our lips.
If I'm not bringing
really
it back
that.
up, you know, we can come around me and we can sit and we are cordial and we're not bringing up the past. Like, we're going, you know, the reason why we weren't together in the first place, but we move on.
Your relationship
it's a different relationship, but it don't have
relationship. It's just
I'm saying that you're saying the right thing.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that is what you saying really was going on.
Right.
Because what Yeshua said was, if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven. So I know that I'm supposed to forgive. So I'm going to say that I forgive you.
I always look
but
at
I don't got to deal with you.
Yeah.
So is it really forgiveness?
No. You don't have to deal with the person. He's just saying. Now, look, this is how I'm interpreting what you're saying, all right? I know you said right there, this is how I'm interpreting, okay? If I say, well, you know, so-and-so and me, we squash that thing. But, you know, it's just not going to be the same anymore. The reason it's not the same anymore isn't because of the bitterness that I have in my heart, but it's...
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. That's what you're saying.
That's
what he's saying.
Right.
Make sure that the reason you're saying that is because of what you're actually saying, and not because you're holding on to something inside of you. That's what he's saying.
Because you do have to be sure. I had a friend, she said she forgave this guy she was dealing with, that we had to go past his house all the time. And so every time we went past the house, she relived the moment. That no good, blah, 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 blah. We couldn't go around this house. But I thought you forgave him. So why do you keep going over the same thing over and over? Because it wasn't really forgiven deep down within.
Yeah,
it was
you really gotta make sure.
If you keep reliving the sin that they did against you or whatever over and over again, I think that means that you didn't let it go.
That's exactly
Yeah, exactly. What
I always look at the scriptures where God said, "I prepare a table in the presence of your enemies." So if you can sit down with them,
well, that's a hard one.
And
that peel's bigger than some
You're not
people's
taking
mouth.
it too far.
They can't slow it. They can't.
That wasn't something that you just made up. That's a Bible. You said you're taking it too far. That's a Bible version. Who's taking it too far? Who's doing this? So this is what we have to be honest. We have to be honest with ourselves and figure out, am I really forgiving this person, or am I just happy with just being separated from the person?
Right. You have to take it.
Oh, wow. Then I put a knot in the rope so I can hold on to the knot.
Okay, so we see what, based on what Yeshua said over there, that's very important. It's very important, right, that we are able to do that, because our sins won't be forgiven.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so going back over to Ephesians.
I need it forgiven.
We're looking at Ephesians chapter 5, and we're thinking about how the Torah command of leprosy is showing us repentance and forgiveness.
You said Ephesians 5?
Yeah, we looked at verse 1. Verse 2 says, and walk in love, as Messiah also have loved us, and had given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you, as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Again, under the umbrella of mimickers or followers of Elohim, imitators of Elohim, these are the things that we should be walking in, right? Mm-hmm. Walking in love. Mm-hmm. If we think about walking in love, right? There got to be love in the first place in order to be able to get to the place of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. That's a question. What? I think I know the answer, but what really is an example of foolish talking or coarse jesting? What does that really mean? Like, you can't even tell a joke. You can't be silly.
Well, actually, it says don't say anything in vain. If it has some substance with it, if it has a purpose.
Well, I gotta say, I only know of one individual really in my life that I could probably say looks at this verse and really just you don't really never hear this man talking about nothing
but the Bible. When you gave a message about the cities of refuge, you said it's akin to going over to his house and staying at his house, because he's not gonna put no football games on. He's not gonna put any basketball games on. Yes, she did. Yes.
Now hold on, let me look over at this word.
Yes, well, that's what it says in
every single thing you talk about and think about.
I'm like really trying to wrap my head around, because
that's good.
If because when you read this, it's really serious about what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, Ooh, I be telling you.
And then think about it. Think about the leper
So I'm being
who wasn't able to really talk about nothing but his own.
What's coming out of my mouth, not right. You know what I mean?
What is that?
I think it would be
I'm trying to examine myself.
Where we at?
5 verse 4.
I'm sure it's not.
I don't know.
Foolish talking,
Foolish
silly talk, buffoonery.
Well, no, not jokes, but just something like stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay.
I know. I'm trying.
Silly
to
talk and buffoonery is what that word is.
What is it?
Silly talk or
Silly
buffoonery.
talk. Silly.
Let's
That's
see.
the Greek 3,
That's
4,
the
7,
Greek.
3.
Speaking foolishly, which is from the word that means foolish, foolish talking. It is that type of speech which betrays a person as foolish. Besides the word, there are 2 others that show the sins of the tongue, namely this other Greek word which has to do with foul speech, the ability to extricate oneself from difficult situations with witty and clever words.
Is that like making excuses for
Right.
yourself?
It's just like when I was talking to somebody on the phone on my way here, and what they were doing was wrong, but they tried to sound wise in their wrongness, but it was foolishness.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and it was just an excuse that they were trying to be in without,
Gotcha.
you know, because they didn't want to let go of what was going on.
Yeah.
So when they were speaking, they tried to speak in a wisely manner, but it was foolishness. Like, come on now, you're talking like a fool.
Yeah. Make their life sound good.
I think that you gotta have
Proper.
things in a
Proper
balance. You know what I mean? Like if it's, I mean,
I think it's if it's hurting someone.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
I don't think
if it's
having a light
Right.
joke or something. I don't think. I mean,
Because I talk
I
about
was
myself all the time.
because
Yeah, I joke.
but if it's like,
You're not making fun of it.
No,
Right,
no, it's not,
exactly.
it's not
Making a joke.
offensive.
yeah,
Right.
it's not
Vulgar.
offensive, it's not vulgar.
Yeah, well,
It's
I
not
really, I think
bad.
it's a sense of humor.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's a character trait, and I don't think there's anything wrong.
Because God laughed. So that is.
Well, I mean, when you think about,
It'll make you a joke. It'll make you a joke.
I think that when we look at this, in terms of if somebody, there's a difference between somebody saying a thing and then somebody being kind of characterized as being away. Like I can maybe say something that at times would be foolish, but am I foolish? Right?
Right.
I think there's a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
If that is the thing that I do in terms of foolish talk, and I'm just known for foolish talk, that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably more so what this would be dealing with in terms of you just saying something from time to time that makes people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially if we're gonna say if it's hurtful or some kind of thing that's negative towards individuals.
Because even right here with the no coarse jesting, it didn't say you couldn't jest.
Okay,
it says
now
nor coarse jesting.
Okay, so that was that word there, jesting.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not
word,
fitting, but rather.
Let me see what that word is. That word there says pleasantry, humor, facetiousness in a bad sense. Scurry, I don't even know that word. Scurrility, rabbledry. I have no idea what this word means. Yeah. Vulgar, indecent, abusive language, as is used by mean fellows, buffoons, jesters, and the like. Grossness of reproach, or invective obscene jokes. So
Obscene.
Yeah, like, you know how people do obscene things.
Yeah, that obviously, if we're walking in the light of Yahweh and we're righteous people, this is things that shouldn't be amongst us.
Okay,
Yes, right.
gotcha.
Impurity.
I don't think that we could say that it's just making just jokes, like saying things that are funny. Like we're supposed to sit around and just be serious
all the time.
our whole lives.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have fun.
Yeah. But it's just about how you're doing it.
Right.
Within the parameters.
If your
of things.
fun involves talking badly about other people, then
No.
Then that's not
Right.
fitting or
Exactly.
benefit
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
Or,
because thinking about again, you know, we see example of bad talk towards individuals is something that caused leprosy before, right?
yes.
So that would be foolish talking.
That would be foolish.
So that's some definite foolish talking.
Mhm.
That's not walking in love.
Right.
It's definitely not walking in love. Right, so we can see the connection. If we're saying things that's, you know, causing people to laugh, that's one thing. But if you're causing other people to laugh, is causing other people pain at the same time,
Right.
then then
That's foolishness.
you know, it is foolishness, and it's not walking in love as Messiah loved us.
And sometimes I think if we see here what we're talking about, we have to think about our own selves. Again, that's back to the self-examination.
Yeah.
Because this week, and I was with a group of people who were getting on my nerves so bad, and I was like, I can't believe it. But then I was like, are you starting to become a Pharisee? I mean, so thinking that you have arrived. So I had to re-examine myself and see why I was so much in pain with these other people.
Yeah.
And
Why you didn't have that patience.
right, exactly. So I was like, well, you didn't like this. Look at yourself. That part, what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you don't like this. So look at yourself again and see why are you going through these emotions right now to the point.
Get that beam out of your own eye.
Exactly. The trunk, the tree trunk where they need a chainsaw.
Get it out.
Forget about the plate. I needed a saw, a jackhammer. I was like, girl, get it together, because there's something in you that is really, that you need to examine yourself about.
Yeah,
that's why you're so angry
y'all was
about the other one.
right there in your face too, just like that.
Right, right.
And that's true what you're saying because you know we just got over that Halloween thing, right? And like I'm seeing people say this, talk about it. You know, people are doing their little trick treat things and all of that other stuff they're doing, and the pictures and the costumes. And I'm just like shaking my head. And I had to do what you said. I had to reflect. Nope, shut your mouth. You used to do that. Shut up. Just shut up.
Right.
All you can do right now is you repent for doing that. You repented that you had brought your children up doing that because you didn't know any better. You weren't in the truth.
Right.
Shut your mouth. Keep your mouth off them.
Right.
And continue doing what you need to do.
Right.
And just pray for those folks.
And not only that,
they'll
being an
be able
example.
to see the light.
Right.
Get your mind and your mouth off of people because you were in their shoes.
Right, exactly.
And you thought there was nothing wrong.
Right, exactly.
I'll repent
So
about that
I-
when I
yeah.
get home, 'cause I did the same thing.
You know, I was just shaking my
there would be a difference between like seeing all of that, right, and then saying, "Well, look at them people; they out there doing all of
Yeah.
that."
But I was sad
Just
for
shaking
them
your
too.
head.
Right,
I
but-
did that though. I was like,
no, but I'm
sad.
saying if you talking about the person, right? You're talking about.
No, I just
what-
shook my head.
Well, I'm just saying if you were doing that, if you was looking at them and talking about them negatively, I think that would be what we see here in terms of him saying that's not what you should be doing. Now, if maybe you was to know a specific person, and maybe you pulled them to the side and started talking to them about it, shedding light on things, that was one thing. But for you to just say, which I mean, when I think about it, I kind of just, you know what I mean?
Right.
you do get to a place sometimes and you sit up there and you end up talking about people and without even thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think what happens to me,
you're not speaking in love.
I'm looking and I'm going like that, and then I'm shaking my head, and then the minute I shook my head, it's like the Father said, "You ain't got nothing. Don't even go there because look at where you've come from." And I just said, so I just try to.
And now you are the teacher of that.
Yeah.
That's what it is, because now I can talk about it and then bring the scriptures with it.
Yes.
And so therefore, and even I visited my sister's church a couple of weeks ago, and he had it in the what is it, the flyer about Halloween and what it was about. And I was like, what? Finally, somebody was talking about they're not supposed to be celebrating Halloween. So I mean, so people do come around, but you have to be that light barrier as well. And if it's your friends or whatever, you teach them what you've learned, and they can either accept it or don't. And that's how it is.
That's true.
We can't be silent about these things, but we have to be able to convey the truth to people in a way that's not
hurtful,
bashing the individual.
Exactly. Right. And I have that like with my family and my children and my mom, you know, and I've shared things with them now that I know.
Right.
But it's up to them.
Right. Exactly.
And they're like, oh, so they've actually calmed down with something, but some things they're just not letting go of. But the Father has to deal with them with that. But you know, I still talk about it. So when it comes up these times, this time of year, they go, oh, da da da. I'm like, I don't do that.
But what made it easier on my family was the videos.
As a reminder.
When you showed them the videos of why, and they broke it down. And for some reason, they related to it more so than speaking on it when they actually seen the videos of somebody speaking on it and where it originated from and the origin of everything. Well, origin, same thing. And so when they seen it and seen these practices and how they became about, then it was like, wow. Then the light bulb came on. It's like even when that one guy was doing the Christmas tree, and he's like, why would you have to give a gift to bring a present? Why do you have to bow down to a tree? He said, we don't even see that. We're even still paganizing, even worshiping that tree because we're bowing before it. So, and I never looked at it like that before, but when you put it that way.
There's a way to speak to people. Right. And this way right here isn't the way.
Right.
Right.
But another thing is that, you know, when you see someone and they might look a certain way and then they open their mouth and it's like all this filth, profanity, you know, a beautiful person, and they just open their mouth and it's just like, oh, like, where did I come from? And you do this, if we're supposed to be light,
right,
and if we open our mouth and darkness comes out, then that means that we're not really light.
Right.
And you know, I remember I talked to I hate to go off on the that tangent, but you know, about even with like Halloween and stuff. And I was talking to a friend, and she was really harsh with children who was celebrating Halloween. You know what I mean? Coming to her door or whatever. And then I was like, well, you know, you can't be harsh with the children because they don't know that this is what they're doing. They're just doing this. They don't have the knowledge or understanding of the word, of the scriptures, of God, or anything. They just want some candy, right? That's all they want is the candy. And then she was like, oh, you know what? I never thought about it that way. I was just looking at the sin that they was, you know, the sin thing, but I wasn't really looking at how it was coming out. So when you are dealing with them, you know what I mean? There's a certain way that you deal with them that's in righteousness. And when you're dealing with them in righteousness, it doesn't have all of this negative profanity.
That's anything that we are supposed to.
You know, if we're operating in rightiousness, certain
we're walking in love.
You're absolutely right. That's
and it's like yesterday, my friend, she just received issue in her life, and it's been like 6 months. So she called me, and I know the friend she was talking about. So, girl, you should hear how she was talking. I can't take it no more. I said, you know what? When we come to light and God transforms us, I said, we don't see who we used to be. I said, what he's showing you is you.
That's right.
And I said, you're looking at her, because this is how we used to couldn't stand you. Yeah. And I said, so he's showing you a picture of who you used to be. But now how you can break her out and say, well, you know what? I used to talk just like that, and I see how ugly it is now. But, you know, you don't have to scream and holler at her and say what you don't like. Because you used to do that. You just was a step away from doing what you, that same potty mouth. And I said, but now you can say, you know what? I used to be, I can't believe I used to talk like that. Because she know you do. So, and so this is what God did for me. He took me out of that. And it's so horrible, but I'm glad that you're showing me how I used to look. And I said, so she might take it as a word, like, you know, so sometimes you just have to do things in a different way. And it's still walking in love.
Okay, so I want to let's finish looking at this Ephesians here, verse 5, chapter 5, verse 5. Keep on going down just a few more verses there down to 8, I think. It's chapter 5, verse 5. For this you know, that no one who whores, nor unclean one, nor one greedy of gain, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the reign of Messiah and Elohim. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these the wrath of Elohim comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore do not become partakers with them, for you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Master. So walk as children of light. So just as we just begin to be done here, we think about this in terms of walking in love. You know, not walking in darkness, but walking in light. Looking back at, you know, thinking about the leper who, you know, had to change in order to be a part of the nation. He wasn't, you know, being in fellowship with the nation in his uncleanness. He went through the process of, you know, becoming clean, and then came back. You know, thinking about leprosy again as sin, we have to turn away from sin. We have to turn away from, you know, all of that wickedness and iniquity and darkness, and walk in the light as children of light. We have to be, as it says here, imitators of Elohim. If we are indeed children, beloved children of Elohim, there is a way that we should walk. So when we do see that there is you know, sin present in our situation, you know, we have to allow that thing to be washed, right? We have to allow that thing to be cleansed and eradicated, so that we can be in right standing with the Father, right? We don't want for our sin just to be kind of just faded, right? Just kind of just covered up, right? We want to cover the sin up with other things, right? We want to cut that stuff out if need be. But we know that, you know, this is not, we're not talking about something that's, you know, that's some impossibility or something, right? The Father has given us his Spirit within us that allows us to actually be cleansed, and we can actually be and walk, as it says that, for you were once darkness, but now you are light. You are light, not just lit up or, you know, look like light, but he's saying that you are light in the Master, right? So we should walk in that. So I just wanted to just kind of bring that out in terms of looking back at the leper, how the leper was actually changed in terms of, you know, just going through those kind of processes of, you know, being reconciled and cleansed, as to where we too, you know, like that through Yeshua, are able to go from a place where, you know, we can be declared unclean, but then also declared clean, you know, by Yeshua. Okay, is there any other thoughts or questions or comments about any of that before we close up?
I just need us, you know, I just want to be cleansed, you know. I just want to be justified, declared righteous.
Okay, then that's the case. Then for now, we will be done with this here.